Well, our correspondent Alex Cadier joins us live from The Hague for an update. So, Alex, good afternoon to you. Almost as expected, the Israeli Foreign Ministry sticking to its defense. They're stating that South Africa had presented a biased as well as false claims that only relied on Hamas sources. Please give us a wrap-up of today's proceedings. It also says that South Africa has an ulterior motive.
Yeah, certainly putting a robust defense forward to the International Court of Justice in response to those accusations by South Africa. That has been clear throughout the day. You heard Gilad Noam, the Deputy Attorney General of Israel there, putting that case forward, accusing South Africa of being selective in the information it chose to present to the court, using erroneous information from Hamas that you cannot trust. That was the position from the Israeli representatives here at the ICJ. That was expected, also accusing South Africa of ignoring Israel's right to defend itself. And the Israeli perspective on this is that the operation in Rafah is necessary to finish the job, as it were, and target Hamas battalions that are still there. Now, the accusation from South Africa, of course, goes beyond that. It says that the operation in Rafah creates conditions that make sustaining human life impossible, and therefore has to be stopped and ordered to stop by the International Court of Justice in that peace palace behind me. So clearly very differing perspectives on this conflict. The other crucial request from South Africa was the humanitarian aid piece to this, asking the court to order Israel to allow the free flow of humanitarian aid and access to all UN agencies, including UNRWA, as well as journalists and other international observers. All of that rejected by Israel, who said that they do respect international law. And although their operation did block aid coming through the Rafah crossing, they also say that Hamas rockets blocked the Kerem Shalom crossing, which also prevented humanitarian aid. Therefore, they urged the court to throw out this request by South Africa.
Now, Alex, you're still outside the court. What was the sentiment on the ground? Did you witness any protests outside of the court? We know there's been various mass demonstrations, including at some universities in the US, as well as anti-Israeli protests globally.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, actually, here outside the ICJ, throughout the morning and parts of the afternoon, we saw pro-Israeli protesters gathered here with Israeli flags and a very large poster of those hostages still being held in atrocious conditions by Hamas in tunnels underneath Gaza. They were here supporting Israel's defense. You're right to say that there are also student movements occupying various universities here in the Netherlands, including at the University of Leiden, not far from where I'm speaking to you from, in support of Palestine. So we have seen those movements across the border. Also, a little spark happened in the court just as the Israeli lawyers were wrapping up their defense. A protester inside the court shouted "liars" at the Israeli legal defense team. The feed for the court was cut, and that person was escorted out very quickly from the ICJ. A little more subdued, actually, the atmosphere out here than it has been in the previous hearings by the ICJ, but certainly the consequences legally and the consequences of the decision based on what the court will decide will have consequences for the coming weeks.
And so where to from here, Alex? Turkey, Colombia and Egypt, showing interest in joining the SA delegation in this matter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The big question first will be, what does the court decide? But even before that, at the end of the hearing, one of the judges asked the Israeli legal team to provide more information about the humanitarian conditions in specific areas of the Gaza Strip, looking at where civilians evacuating from Rafah because of the military operation there could go. That remains an outstanding question. Israel has about 24 hours to respond to it. Then we expect a decision on the provisional order on whether or not to order Israel to stop its operations in Rafah. We expect that decision to come from the court next week. Beyond that, it's all eyes on Washington, because the UN Security Council will be the body that decides enforcement, whether or not this order is enforced upon Israel. If the US vetoes, that won't happen. But we know that Washington and the Israeli government do not see eye to eye on this operation in Rafah, and that could mean this case by South Africa will be a game changer in the coming weeks.
Thank you so much. Certainly one to watch. That is SABC News correspondent there, Alex Cadier, live to us from right outside The Hague.